Hello and welcome to day 37 of A Film a Day with me, Jordan Woodley. As you can see, my setup is a bit more basic today. I'm back to the bookshelf, so as you can imagine, I didn't watch the film on my fancy TV. Today, as I've been watching a lot of important cinema history films, I thought I would watch something a bit sillier and a bit less in keeping with everything, a wild card, you might say. And so I've decided to watch the 1987 action exploitation film Deadly Prey. Just to give you a quick premise, the film is about a man named Mike Danton who is kidnapped by a team of mercenaries who are training by hunting civilians in the wild jungles of LA. However, they didn't realise that Mike Danton was in fact the most deadly prey of all. So, as you could imagine, this is a very silly film. I have often said that one learns as much about as much about filmmaking from bad films as they do from great films. And this is definitely one of those times. The director, David A. Pryor, is known for doing action and horror exploitation filmmaking, particularly in the 80s and 90s. And you might say, well, what's the point of making bad films? It really comes from the B-movie tradition of the 50s, where, you'd have your big feature, the film that people had come to see, your Casablancas or, your Big Chills. But then to make an evening's entertainment, someone would need to see a second film that would be quite short and a lot cheaper. Now that then transitioned into what you might call the bargain basement during the VHS era, although in the UK probably more likely car boot sale, where you get these features that were made quickly, cheaply, and their function is just to sell and to get, something that scratch the itch that people will be looking for that they might not be able to get from a bigger blockbuster. Then you reach now you've got to that point where you probably have what you might call the depths of the Netflix queue, where if you go deep into the vaults of Amazon, Netflix, where you'll get these cheaply made bad films. But their function really is, like I say, to scratch that itch. What you learn from something like the work of David A. Pryor and something like Deadly Prey is it definitely serves the same function as the action movies of that time. Your Stallones, your Schwarzeneggers, your Jean-Claude Van Dammes. And this is made very cheaply and simply. The choreography is not great, and the action is, it's barely passable. But it does scratch the itch for someone who, let's say, has seen the whole library of proper action films and just needs something quick, cheap, and easy that just fulfills that same pleasure. Similarly, you get it a lot with slasher films. The horror genre is known for its exploitation cinema. But the point being is that it, like I say, achieves the function of allowing someone a good night's watch without the commitment to seeing proper cinema. And this film, despite the fact that it's silly, very badly acted, and even the action isn't great in it, definitely gives you a night's worth of watching something ridiculous. I would often say that when I was in university, I would, quote unquote, experiment with watching, extreme cinema. I would watch both incredibly well-made but intensive watches, something along the lines of Lars von Trier, but I would also watch, your, quote unquote, bad films. Because the interesting thing is when you see good or potential things within bad filmmaking, and you see, you might see one performance, or you might see something in it where you go, oh, I can see the core of this idea. This is the landscape where, people come up out of these sorts of films and might go on to be in greater films or develop a career just based on poor filmmaking or poor, like I say, exploitation cinema. So it's kind of fun, kind of silly, but it is the definition of bad. I would say unequivocally bad. Anyway, as I said, this is a short one, so thanks for joining me. I'll see you again tomorrow. Take care.